All right, I feel like I need to do a follow-up to this us an hour. I'm going to start out by saying I believe in the Trinity 1,000,000%. However, I also know that in Genesis chapter 1, and I'll get to it, there's no way that it can be talking about the Trinity. And then, don't send me YouTube videos of people that have never studied biblical Hebrew because it's a slap in my face. It's very insulting to me, and I'll leave that at that. So I've studied under some very good biblical Hebrew scholars. Even they know that it can't be the Trinity in those verses. So, and the nuts and the bolts of it is understanding the word Elohim. And I'm going to read the Hebrew from right to left because that's how Hebrew is written. And I'm going to break it down here. And to simplify it, the GODS here, when you see that word in the English, just a little nugget for the English reader that doesn't know biblical Hebrew, it's not always talking about idols that they carved out of what they saw. It's talking about supernatural beings, other Elohim. There's Elohim, God the Father, that created all things. All the Elohim were created by him. And he shares his name with his children. It's a plural word, but that does not mean the Trinity. It cannot mean the Trinity. And I'll get to that. I confused someone yesterday, and the whole topic was our existence before we were here, which I believe 1,000,000%. I know 1,000,000%. All throughout the Bible, it talks about it. Even to the point of those who stood against the false Christ, so to speak, or Satan himself, the dragon, in the world that was. And if that's too overwhelming for your mind, put it in your pocket. Okay? And let's get back to the good stuff, the Hebrew. Make sure you understand the topic before you comment on it. Because it's going to do nothing more than cause me to go even further into things and bore you to death. Okay? And there's people that have studied the biblical Hebrew language, starting with the alphabet and so on and so forth. And then there's people that don't understand biblical Hebrew at all and how it works. And they use a Strong's Concordance and they try to have a debate about it. It's not going to work. All right, right to left. Mizmor le'asaf Elohim natzav. I don't have a pointer here to show this stuff. That's fine. Be'adat El, which is a shortened form of Elohim. Be'kerev Elohim Yishpot. So what does this say in the Hebrew? In the English, it says, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty, which that word mighty is a shortened form of Elohim. He judgeth among the gods. So God's going to stand in a congregation of other Elohim, because that's what El means, and he's going to judge idols. He's going to pass judgment on inanimate objects, right? On wood and... Of course not. The Hebrew says, Elohim, God the Father, standeth in the congregation of El, his children, shortened form of Elohim. He judgeth among the Elohim, his children. And in many places it's referred to the phrase B'nai Elohim, sons of Elohim. If you're a son of Elohim, you are an Elohim. Doesn't mean there's more than one God. There's only one God the Father, creator of all things. There's also Elohim the sons, which is the us in the hour in Genesis chapter 1. And again, I'll get to that. Because if we're gonna debate something, we're gonna break it down 100% correctly. And we're not going to share YouTube videos of people that don't understand these things in depth. And I would say get you a second, a third, and a fourth biblical Hebrew scholar, and they will document everything I'm saying here. Genesis chapter 11, verse 7. I'm going to cover a lot of stuff here, so let's get right into this. Go to let us. Now, is this talking about the Trinity? Of course it's not. It's talking about God, Elohim, God the Father, and the children he created, Elohim the sons. Go to let us, God and his children, supernatural beings, go down and there confound their language that they may not understand one another's speech. The us here is Elohim, God's children, referred to as B'nai Elohim in many places. All right, we're going to go to Job chapter 1, verse 6, and I'm going to read the Hebrew, and I have it highlighted here so that you can't miss it. Vayihi hayom vayivohu B'nai ha-Elohim. B'nai means sons or children, if you want to call it, translate it that way. Ha means and Elohim are God's children in the supernatural realm. That's who they are, and that's where they are. Okay, that's the us in the hour in Genesis chapter 1. The other Elohim. And there's only one God the Father, creator of all things. I believe in the Trinity 100%, so nobody gets confused. But what's this word right here highlighted mean? B'nai ha-Elohim. It's translated the sons of God, but in the Hebrew it's the sons of Elohim. Supernatural beings. Right? So if you are a human, and you are a son of a human, you are a cat, right? No, you are a human. If you are a B'nai ha-Elohim, a son of Elohim, you are an Elohim. The English reader is not going to see these things. When it says, let us make man in our own image, God is saying, let me, God the Father, and you, Elohim the sons, I will make them in my image, and I will also create male and female, because it's plural in that verse. We're going to get to that. In your image. Christ said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He looked exactly like he did in his spiritual form, just like we look just like we did in our spiritual form. It's that simple. And I'm only covering about 1% of the fact that we existed before we were here. And I was baffled yesterday doing research on YouTube, which I don't like to watch YouTube videos, especially when they're trying to teach things they don't understand. It's like somebody trying to teach how to repair a car, but they've never gone to school to learn how to repair a car. It's a pretty good analogy, I believe. But I was just baffled by how they all try to discredit that we existed before we were here. It's not pre-existence. It's not reincarnation. We never ceased existing from the time God created all the Elohim to the time they were born from above into the flesh. We got to stop twisting John chapter 3. Are we born again? Yes. It states that in another place, but the word is not anothen. When Christ was crucified, the veil was rent from top, anothen, above, to the bottom. And John 3:3 says, lest ye be born from anothen. You can't translate that again. Born from above. All right. With all the information, we understand now that in biblical Hebrew there is Elohim, God the Father, creator of all things, creator of all the other Elohim. We've already read it, and that's like I said, that's only a microcosm, like a 1% of all the verses that pertain to the other Elohim. And again, there's only one God, the Father, creator of all things, creator of all the other Elohim. And it even goes on in other places, but for the sake of not making an hour-long video, although I could probably make a 5-hour video on this topic, I enjoy it. I've studied Biblical Hebrew since 2010 or 2012. And I had very good teachers. But the point I'm trying to make here is once you understand that Elohim means supernatural beings or God's children in the supernatural realm, for lack of a better way to explain it, you understand that they were much more prevalent in the Old Testament. The English reader is going to read gods and they're going to think they're idols. They're not always talking about idols. However, the idols they were carving that are called Elohim were carved out of what they saw round about them. Supernatural beings. Period. So let's just get into this, and it cannot be talking about the Trinity, which I believe in the Trinity. And I apologize for confusing people. But just don't send me YouTube videos, and that's insulting to me. Verse 26, and God said, let us. And God the Father Elohim said, let us, God the Father Elohim, and all the other Elohim, his children, supernatural beings, make man in our, God the Father Elohim, and all of his children Elohim, our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Now, he's creating plural here in this next verse. The second God here is plural. It's very simple. What's the Hebrews say? Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam. I won't even talk about that. Betsalmo, Betsalem, Elohim. Again. What's it saying? So Elohim, God the Father, created et ha'adam, the man, in his image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. There's the plural right there. There's more than one being created by God the Father. In other words, God created man in his image, but he also created male and female, them, plural, in the image of the Elohim. See how simple that is? It cannot mean Father, Son, Holy Spirit. That is so wrong. I think I've touched on a lot of things, and I'm not trying to talk down to anybody. I'm not trying to, but it is what it is. If you don't understand a language, then you shouldn't try to make videos on YouTube about them. It's that simple. It would be like, say you studied French, and you've studied it for years, and you get the ins and outs and the workings of the words and everything, and then somebody comes along that's never studied French, okay, and they try to have a debate with you about the French language when they have no concept of what it's really about. And I'm going to point the listener in a good direction to do a side study of this. Go to your gadgets, okay, and type in the Divine Council. And you're going to find a guy by the name of Michael Heiser, who died of pancreatic cancer not too long ago. I was very sad. He was young, but he was a brilliant biblical Hebrew scholar. In fact, he was the one that crushed And Zecharia Sitchin's whole Planet Nibiru and Planet X, and the Anunnaki seeded mankind, which is all a lie. Because Zecharia Sitchin claimed to know how to read all that text, and he didn't know anything about it. Well, lo and behold, Michael Heiser did, and he just crushed everything that Zecharia Sitchin taught properly. But the point of the matter is he understood these things because he had a PhD in biblical Hebrew, period. I studied one of his biblical Hebrew courses many years ago. So I'm going to end this, and again, I'm not trying to talk down to anybody, but I felt insulted when I had YouTube videos posted to try to sway me one way or another. I believe wholeheartedly that we existed before we were here, and I'm not going to change on that view. And for that, I would say, how were God's elect chosen before the foundation of the world? Before the ketubol in the Greek? Before God destroyed the world that was? They were chosen before God destroyed the world age, before the one we're living in now. And I know they try to say that the earth is only 6,000 years old. The only way God could choose the elect before he destroyed the world that was is if they were with him at that time. It's that simple. We existed before we were here, all of us.